So today we're going to be talking about getting ready to engage millennials. And before I get started and introduce the panel, I'm going to share a couple interesting statistics and some information around millennials just to kind of get you guys in the mood. So what are millennials? When most people think of millennials, depending on the company that you work for, these are some of the things that come to mind. Millennials are entitled, they're not interested in work, they're lazy and live at home in their parents' basement. They're disloyal, they're unsuccessful, right? They're going to stay with your company just for a little bit, and as soon as they find something better, they're going to jump ship and get the hell out, right? That's what a lot of people think about millennials. However, the reality is that they're a new kind of employee, right? They're broke, but are willing to work hard for their returns. 74% of millennials want more pay within their organization. And they're very entrepreneurial, right? A lot of millennials out there are probably the ones that are building the next type of organization or the next type of innovation. And they're 2.5 more times likely to use technology than their older counterparts, than Gen Xers, than Boomers, etc. However, a lot of people still think that they are disloyal, and they're trying to continuously think of ways to keep millennials engaged. 45% of companies actually report having a higher turnover rate when it comes to millennials. And there are all sorts of statistics that we can find and keep debating around millennials, but I thought it would be most effective to actually have a couple millennials here, and we can ask them some questions. So really quick, I'll just have the three panelists introduce themselves, so just say your name, where you guys work, and some interesting fact about yourself. So we can start with you.
Sure. My name's Amira Pollack, and I work at SAP in corporate social responsibility. Fun fact is that just 6 months ago, I was living and working in a garage in the Philippines at a startup that distributes solar lanterns to rural villages without electricity.
That's pretty cool. Okay.
Hello, everyone. My name is... Can you hear me? Okay, I'm not sure if I'm here. Great. My name is Yurida Chakuri. I'm an international student from Drexel University. I used to live for 18 years in Albania, which is a small country in Europe, in between Italy and Greece, for those who don't know. And for me to come here in USA was like coming here and realizing that I have all these opportunities open for me. I recently graduated for majoring in operations management and MIS, and right now I'm looking forward to start my internship with SAP in June, like next week.
Great. My name is Ben Christensen, and I am an entrepreneur, a student entrepreneur at the IT University of Copenhagen in Denmark. And something that I'm doing to pay the bills is making the best, smarter, faster notes to take over the world, right? But a fun fact about me is what you really need to know is I ride to work on a unicycle or to school on a unicycle if I can. It's just what I do.
Very cool. So before we open it up to all of you guys for questions, I'll start off and say, what do you guys think of these statistics? Are millennials lazy and entitled and disloyal? I mean, how does that make you feel when you guys hear these types of things? We can start with whoever wants to take a stab at it first.
I don't think I'm disloyal. I think that would be something, I look at that and I think, where does that come from? Of course, there's some research behind it, but what I'm really looking for is the opportunity to say, I want to work with a generation that's older than me and say, what can we do together? I want to learn from people who are smarter, but I also want to be smart, and I want them to treat me well, right? And I don't think I'm going to have this, I'm going to be, if you treat me well, I'm going to be loyal, right? But it's a reciprocal thing, right? So.
I mean, I think that if anybody was called lazy or disloyal, I mean, that doesn't feel too good. At the same time, what's interesting is this past weekend, I was at my college reunions for the first time since graduation at Princeton, and it's at a 2-year point where really everybody's changing jobs. And I'm wondering, does that mean we're disloyal? And I think, you know, perhaps we haven't, I mean, millennials haven't been in the workforce for that long to see, you know, where it is that they stay. And it is true that at the beginning of your career, you're just kind of looking, testing out different things, seeing what we can actually do in a post-recession market and actually get a job, and learning and iterating and finding out who we are and what that ultimate longer-term position will be. I hope I can find a place that I can stay for, you know, longer term and build a community around me. But I don't know. I think it's an interesting adjective, and how do we define the term disloyal?
So really I want to open it up to you guys to see what questions you guys might have for these millennials. Anything that you want to ask about being a millennial in the workplace, questions, ideas, thoughts that you guys might have, by all means, feel free to throw them out. Anybody want to go first? Yes? And I'll repeat the question so you guys can all hear it. So the question was, what sort of attributes do you look for in an organization, right? So what sort of attributes do you look for in an organization that you want to join or perhaps stay at?
I want flexibility. I love to be able to, I did an internship and it was with SAP, it was last year, and my boss said, you can work on the moon if you want, I don't care. I love to be able to work mobile, but I'd like to go into the office too. We have a shared desk arrangement and we can move desks around. This is in the office in Copenhagen, that was fun. Since then I've worked at other places, right? But I realized when I'm doing my own business, I want to go to the library and I want to go, that'll be my office, right? And I actually do this, my partner and I want flexibility, so.
I look for more like when you go to a person, to a colleague, it's communication. It's all about communication. If we get connected somehow, if we share something from ourselves and they share something from themselves, if you get a connection, that's all it is. Like you can get things done if you're connected to the right people and you communicate easily with each other. I feel that's the main thing. Like having meetings or getting introduced somehow to different people in in conferences and other parts. I feel that's the key, like from my experience.
Yeah, so between having worked on Wall Street, a startup in the Philippines, having founded my own company and working now at SAP, a 67,000 person organization, I think my number one priority is, does this work have an impact? Is it meaningful? Am I touching other people's lives and are we doing good things? And is there a future for me at this workplace? Can I grow? Can I learn from my colleagues and develop? And that whole ecosystem, I know that those are probably common statistics, but they were the drivers out of my other organizations for me, and has been attracting me to SAP as an employer of choice.
Cool, so we have flexibility.
Can I add something else?
Yes, please.
I was thinking, when we go to workplace, we want to be heard. That's the thing that we're looking for. I mean, we know that we're not that experienced. We don't understand that very well, what the business is about, but we ask questions. That's what, all the questions that we ask. We're willing to help and to make this place better. If we're showing that interest, I want people to look back at us and like try to help us as well. So we can work together and we can make that work. We can find a solution together.
So it sounds like flexibility, communication, and working together, and purpose are sort of the three things that these panelists look for as far as qualities go in the workplace. Any other questions that you guys might have? Oh, we got a bunch now. Okay, great. Go ahead. You up here. So I'll repeat the question. The question was, what sort of systems or technologies are you looking for demanding in the workplace? In other words, do we want to see social and collaborative technologies in the workplace, things that might emulate Amazon or Facebook or something like that, that we use in our personal lives?
I think I'll say yes, because what I like to do is to contact everybody. Part of being flexible, and I'll extend that argument here, is to be able to reach somebody who has some knowledge, even if they're on a way higher level than I am, right? I really hope to be able to gain that knowledge, and I know it's a cultural thing that I have to figure out. In Denmark, it's very informal, and I really like that. And I hope that's what I would say. Yes.
It's always good to combine both sides because we're living in 2014. Everything is happening right now. So why keeping those separated? It's better to combine. And it's happening. We can see that happening right now.
Yeah, and to be more specific as well, from my end, cloud-based, social, integrated, Princeton, when I was there, moved over to Gmail because everything you can access from there. You can chat, you can email, you can Google Hangout, you can do Google Drive and Google Docs, and that's how students run organizations. That's what they're going to be expecting of the workplace. And it's all there. You can access it from any device. And statistically, more and more millennials are bringing they're disrupting the organizations from the inside out. I am going to break policies to use my own personal cloud-based tools. I am going to use Twitter, and I am going to use Facebook if it requires me to reach out to certain people and get things done. So those are the ways that we drive outcomes personally and consume tools before getting into the workplace, and that's what we're going to be expecting more and more of the workplace.
So I'm kind of curious, how many of you guys are working in organizations that are deploying these types of social and collaborative tools to connect and engage people? Okay, so some of you guys, not many. How many of you would want your organization to have these types of social and collaborative tools that might emulate, social media platforms that we use? Okay, so a good portion of you. So I think it's not just millennials, I think it's also a larger group of people that want these types of things. In my session earlier, I talked about my little brother Josh, who's 22, who's entering the workplace, and he doesn't know what it's like to not have these types of social and collaborative tools, right? He doesn't know what it's like to get 200 emails a day. He doesn't know what it's like to sit in a cubicle. So I think it's a very, very interesting thing that we're starting to see within companies. Any other questions? I saw a couple. Yes, back there.
Okay.
So the question is, what is your preferred method for giving and receiving feedback about job performance?
I want it. I'll have to think about that. I like feedback, but
Face-to-face, like having a meeting, face-to-face is always better. But if it's not possible, having a conference call, it's all about communication. If you can say to a person directly, you can get things done. That's what I would say.
And building on that, I am also happy to take negative feedback. I want it direct, honest, so I can execute on it. And I want us to be really clear about the outcomes that we're going for. We don't have to dance around the topic, and you're not going to hurt my feelings. Twitter is 140 characters per tweet, so as long as it's clear and concise and action-driven, even if it's more on the negative side, we can overcome that.
So what I can say is I don't have enough experience, I think, to know what feedback mechanisms there are for employee performance. But the honesty, as I'm hearing, I really would like to be, I guess I want it, if there's an issue, I don't want it to wait. Or if there's a great thing, I'd love to hear about it, right? I'm a little bit scatterbrained and I'm very hyper. I really like to do things from one moment to the next. And so if it's going to be an important thing, I would like to hear about it now. And I don't know how that works really in industry, but I would like to see that.
How do you guys feel about getting annual or semi-annual reviews?
No.
How would you feel about getting feedback once a year?
If I'm still there.
Do you guys feel the same way in terms of annual reviews? It's just not.
Annual reviews is fine. It's a report. It makes you realize if you achieved your goals or not. But I wouldn't say you have to have it twice a year. Or it depends on the position and it depends on what you're counted off.
So you're okay with longer term periods, once a year, every 6 months?
I'll make sure I'll communicate and I'll ask my boss if I'm doing my job right.
See, so it's interesting. So we have one that prefers more real-time feedback and somebody else that prefers or is okay with, sort of longer term. So you're the
I'm the it depends.
The tie cutter, no pressure.
And I've been in a work environment where there's been no performance review and it's just constant feedback and not even any time to iterate or make changes, and one where, now it's a happy medium where you've got the annual reports, but it's not a surprise. We're in touch on a weekly basis or, every other week. And if there's a problem on the spot, we address it there. So, and that's fine. If that's a process, maybe there's an HR tool or an HR process where we're developing my career over time. I actually think that's great, and it keeps me centered maybe on 3 or 4 things during the year. The deadlines are clear. I'm accountable, but I don't want to be surprised by anything 1 year from now. And so being constantly in touch and escalating things as soon as they bubble up is also important.
Okay, so we have a little, a good mix here. Any other questions from the panelists? From the audience, sorry. Yes? So the question was all around privacy and work-life balance. He was asking, what do you guys think of privacy? What do you guys think of work-life balance? Is it important to keep the two separate, or is it okay to kind of blur them a little bit? That's a good question. What do you guys think?
Can I start? I've done 2 internships abroad, and I've done 2 in USA. The privacy is very important in USA, but in Europe, people just ask questions. They want to know, like, what's their private life? What are you doing? Like, what are you up to? What are you doing on your weekends and everything? Taking a look at both sides, when you share about your private life, you make a connection with people, and they know more about you. They kind of understand you when you act, like when you do something, when you don't send it, when you don't reply to an email or something. But the other side, like getting too close to people, is the down part. So I think it's important to share something, but still keep the privacy that USA has. I like that.
I'll take an angle on this where if I have some tasks to do, I would like whoever's holding me responsible for them to care more about the ends than the means, which means if I want to go to the dentist in the middle of the day and I still get my stuff done, I just want to be able to take those breaks. So I still want to be really flexible. At work-life balance, I'd like to weave them in whenever I can. If I have a moment with my phone, because I like to work mobily, it's part of my startup concept, I'm going to be working, even if I'm somewhere else that's in a private life setting. And the other way around, yes.
I just want to be able to be in an environment where I can bring my whole self to work, but I don't want text messages and calls at 3 a.m. on a Saturday. So
Why not?
I love my colleagues, and I want them to know I'm a big sister from a middle-income family in LA that's half Filipino and half Jewish Caucasian. I want them to know that I've lived in South Africa and the Philippines, and have a wonderful boyfriend in my life or something. And I want them sometimes to meet my friends so that they can understand me and leverage my strengths. And I think that's okay. But I think it's also up to us as millennials too, to be cognizant of what we're posting maybe on Facebook or on Twitter or bringing to the workspace. Is that something you want on the front page of a newspaper as a headline? That's kind of my climate tester.
So it sounds like freedom, but accountability at the same time. Any other questions? I saw a couple other hands over here and over there. Any other questions? I got time for maybe 1, maybe 2 more. Yes?
You are growing and growing and having larger responsibilities. What actions will you take to get the most of the non-millennials employees that will work for you?
So the question was, what actions would you take in the workplace to get the most out of non-millennial employees that might work for you? And it's actually a good question, because I think recent numbers showed that I think 63 or 68% of managers today are eligible to retire, and most of the people that are taking those jobs of management are millennials. So more and more we're going to see millennials that are going to have people working under them that might not be millennials. So what sort of actions would you take?
I would take away the concept of working under. I don't know if you mentioned that, but if I am having people in my company, right? Wow, that would be great. That's part of the vision. And I'm going to hire people that are way smarter than me and way more skilled and advanced and no industry, no customers, and no challenges. Then I want to be able to have informality. I can also speak based upon my reverse experience going in, and I love to be able to be brought into a team of like experts and say, I did this at SAP last year. I was on a think tank for designing apps and appraising initiatives and things like that. With experts, they somehow wanted my opinion, right? I don't know why. But I would like to take that the other way around. And for example, somehow be able to, maybe mentorship, like apprenticeship, like people just work together. You have to work across these 5 generations, because I think we're smarter together. We have a lot of synergy that we can get because we think differently, all of us.
I would say it's important to have clear in your mind what do you want to learn, what do you want to ask these people, and like have a clear vision of what you want to know, and then like go and talk to them. They're human. They've been in our shoes as well. They've done the same things. So I think that's what I would do. Like, go straight up, make clear what I want to know, and I think they'll be able to learn to teach me like what I want to know.
Yeah. When I was in the Philippines, actually, working at this startup, there were some people that were non-millennials that I was responsible for managing. And I think the concept and the definition of management to millennials really is changing. I think some of these books that, that are out there that we've been reading, self-help, how to manage, they're going to be totally different. And I think, for me, it has to be a personal approach. And I think especially people who are more senior than myself have lots to give in terms of just practical experience that I don't have yet. And so it's really just taking people's individual strengths and also learning their weaknesses and playing to that, and being just, taking the humble leadership route, leading from behind and from the center and outward. So,
great. Well, thank you very much. Let's give a hand to our brave millennials that came up here. And I'm sure they'll be around afterwards if anybody wants to come up and say hello and ask a question.